Batgirl, issue 3, Tate Brombal writing with Takeshi Miyazawa on the art. So, Shiva and Cass are on the train that they ran to at the end of last issue, and we spend pretty much this entire issue on the train. In fact, it starts with Cass looking at a photograph of the Bat family, which she is reminiscent of in her head. And much like past issues, a big highlight for me in this issue was her narration as she is sort of, processing things. And the big part here is that she's sort of saying, hey, this is what Leader Shiva is. She's not a mother. She's cruel. She provokes. She will pretend empathy. She will abuse wounds that you've already got. Every touch is a manipulation. All this stuff. And then throughout the issue, she's sort of looking for those signs and sort of catches some of them. But there's also some moments where it's like, oh, that actually looks like she cared about someone there. How do I process this? And she's kind of like sort of fighting with herself. So there's more of Shiva trying to talk to her and like say, hey, this is important, daughter. Forget your Bat family. This is what matters. And Cass is like, no, this is your fault. I'm out here because of you. So yeah, it's a big confrontation issue more than anything.
Yeah, well, and I just like the train setting of it all too, because the further Cass goes down the train, it seems like the more understanding of Shiva she gets. So I kind of like that little aspect. And just it's doing that thing where it is rightfully making me understand how Shiva isn't exactly this evil villain that we've always seen, right? Like there is some complexity and nuance to her, because when you get introduced to the Order of Shiva and what that represents, and it's informed by actions that Shiva's taken through Cass and through her career as a deadly assassin, it definitely makes me look at her in a different light. She's not just the destroyer.
Yeah, I don't know if I'm taking it all at face value quite yet. I'm still kind of wary of what is actually going on at the Order of Shiva. It seems very nice, and like she's helping out people who are allies. But I suspect, I don't know, I mean, Cass is obviously very wary of everything. She does ultimately, because they get into the next train car, because Cass starts fighting with Shiva and kicks her into the next train car. And there's all these people who look, helpless. They look like they're scared or whatever. And like Cass is sort of looking around. I love the little yellow boxes that go around some of the faces as Cass, and it sort of ties with some of the narration boxes where it's like threat, injured, scared of me. She's sort of processing, but she immediately puts on her mask. She's like, wait a minute, mask, identity, and puts the mask back on, which is great, because it means for the rest of the issue we're back to the mask Cassandra Cain, where we get kind of those ambiguous at times reactions from her, which part of what makes, I think, Cassandra Cain books so interesting, is that sometimes you get just like only the slimmest amount of like expression from the art, because you can have her kind of like, furrow her brow or whatever, but beyond
her
that,
eyes do a lot of the storytelling.
Yeah, it's very disguised otherwise though, so it's almost like a challenge to see how well the artist can like pull off the simplistic way of her expressions. A
bit of a spoiler is the artist is fantastically.
Oh yeah, no, it's great. Yeah. The art's been great throughout this book, and this arguably could be seen as the best yet. So there's a lot of her talking to this guy who works for the Order of Shiva, who seems to trust Shiva. Explains to her that everyone in the Order is either a destroyer or a restorer, depending what path they choose. He is a restorer. He's a healer. He's going to patch Cass up and give her some medicine. And Cass, by the end of this conversation, does seem to sort of listen and sort of realize that this guy isn't a threat. And he's even noticing that Shiva is like attending to other people in the train, and is like, but doesn't know how to take it in. I think her expression there as she sees that is very much of apprehension. As much as you can read that panel.
Yeah. Well, because this is not the Shiva that she knows, right? Like, so her seeing her tend to these people, it definitely would be a bit of like, well, what's the play here? Because she's always thinking that Shiva's, like you said earlier, they point out, that's always a manipulation of a wound or of a limb or of something, right? That she's using this as a means to an end. So I do like that Cass is still a bit suspicious.
And I think this whole Order of Shiva thing could be a means to an end, to be honest. I think this is...
I think so too, but just the idea of what Shiva is, right? And in Hindu mythology, right? It's a creator, but also from that, or destroyer, but also from destruction can come creation, right? Because things are cyclical. So just the idea, like, because this the healer guy, the restorer, his name's Jayesh, and Cass thinks that she recognizes him from before, but she's like, well, no, he died from the the unburied, and that was his brother, and his brother was a destroyer, right? He was one of the fighters that fights at behalf of Shiva, while he's a person that does the opposite. So this whole idea of the balance between the two, and I feel like that's something that also that Shiva's been trying to preach to Cassandra, that you can't. I'll always be your mother, right? Might be this bat, and you honor that side of the family, but you're always going to have this other half. So you have to find that balance. And I feel like that this issue only drives that theme more.
Yeah. But of course, there's more to this here. The issue gets kind of exciting when she sees someone coming from a train car further down, looking for the bathroom of all things.
And again, the art here, he looks like there's like this sheepishness to the body, to the body language. It's very funny.
Yeah, and there's a very sort of thin panel, a close-up of Cassandra's eyes in the mask, with just one caption saying "threat," and it's just like it's just like her eyes have locked in like a Terminator of like, who is this? He is a danger, and it's like, yeah, she's like, League of Shadows, watch out, and she kicks this guy into the next train car and sees more League of Shadows, and then we get a glorious pair of 2-page spreads where it's basically just one of those sequential fights where there's no panel breaks, it's all presented as one image, but it's like Cass fighting her way through a train full of League of Shadows over 2 pages with her mother like right behind.
Trying to stop her, right? Like all of Shiva's body language is like protective almost, right? Like she's, it's very apprehensive.
Yeah. But it's like Cass is kind of reassuring herself like what she is as she's doing this. She's like, hey, this is the betrayal I was waiting for. The League of Shadows is here. Shiva only does this and that, but I'm a bat. And she then sort of goes through and says, I'm the will of Barbara, I am the heart of Stephanie, I am the, and she goes through all the members until obviously ending on Bruce. Yeah, the glorious 2 pages, and then the page afterwards is also a single full page spread of her jump kicking a League of Assassins, or Shadows, I should say, member, from one train car to the next. So the page is like the space in between the 2 train cars, and then like flying between the 2 entrances. Just gorgeous. Those 3 pages are just phenomenal.
And the coloring here, right, to play with the shadows, because it's the full-on full moon, and just so the blues hit with the blacks and the grays. And yeah, it looks great.
Yeah, gorgeous stuff. I will say, the last 2 pages, is there a different colorist on the last 2 pages?
It feels like it. Let me go back to the title page.
Because as soon as you go to that second last page, they are still great, and the line work still looks the same, and it's not bad. It just looks a little bit different coloring wise to the rest of the issue. The colors are a bit more vivid and less kind of, I guess, muted. I would say.
No, I feel like it was a conscious effort because it's the same.
Really?
It's Mike Spicer.
Yeah, that's fair enough. It looks notably different on that last 2 pages.
Yeah.
And basically she's got to the head of the train, and the reveal here is that we have what's her name? Nissa Al Ghul. She's back from the dead. The other Al Ghul, she's there with the League of Shadows. And this is like a little team that Shiva's put together. These are the allies. These are the resistance against the unburied, and whatever else. So yeah, it's like Cass is confused and says these threats are supposed to be allies, and one of them, probably Nissa, the final bubble is care to take a seat next to Mummy. And I love that panel because it's just like this half view of Cassie's face in the mask, just kind of scowling and being like, what is this? Like, who am I trusting here? Like, what has my mother got me into with this allegiance? So, all very, very fishy. But Nah, this was a great issue. It had more of the mother-daughter kind of back and forth in Cass, like sort of like resisting all the temptations that Shiva offers. It kind of murkied it up by showing that Shiva might have done something good with her power, because these people idolize her and she uses that in some way. Although, see, when she said that, though, she said, oh, like, an ideal is a more powerful leader than a person. And I thought, that sounds a lot like Batman.
Yeah.
When you phrase it like that, it sounds very Batman-y.
I mean, that's what Bruce tells in Batman Begins. That's what he tells Alfred, right?
Yeah.
He's become an idea. You know, it's harder to kill an idea.
Yeah, I'm curious if Cass has a moment of reflection where she realizes that she believes in an idea, and that's what she believes in with bats. But yeah, and then the ending's interesting. But for me, the pinnacle of this issue is the fight. Right, when Cass goes into fight mode and we get those like 3 glorious pages, 5 pages technically, because it's two full page spreads, and then a single page spread. But that fight sequence is gorgeous, and yeah, like maybe the best fight sequence that we've had in this book so far, and that's saying something because issue 1 had a lot of great stuff in that vein as well. So
yeah, for sure.
I loved how focused it was. I love that it's all set in this train, and it has like a sense of progression. You can kind of neatly break it into like 3 parts based on different train cars and what is happening in the story. So it's structured very neatly and feels really easy to follow. And then as we praise the art, they're doing all the cast expressions, the great fight scenes. Yeah, it's a winner. I have very little to critique. I love Cass getting fleshed out like this. I love that she has a book again. It really made me want to go back and read the full original Cassandra Cain Batgirl run.
Because they mentioned that that Shiva, because I've never read that stuff, that she resurrected Cassandra. Yeah. And so that was another thing that showed that, you know, that there is a restorer aspect to her. She's not just the destroyer. And it said, you know, there's an editor's note, Batgirl 25. So that was something that made me curious about that original arc, or that original series anyways.
Yeah, I read some of it once upon a time, but like I never got around to it. I think it's because they were putting out thick trades, but they stopped. They never finished the whole run and those thick trades. But obviously digitally it's all available, so I really should go back and do the full run. It was a very easy read from what I read.
I'll have to look into it. Now here's the thing with the two. The League of Shadows, League of Assassins, two different. Are they being interchangeable?
I don't think
they've popped up so many times now. I'm getting them confused.
I don't think they're interchangeable because remember that whole Lazarus Island stuff. With Robin and all that, there was League of Assassins, League of Shadows, and then there was like the super secret third one, right?
Yes.
So I think they are 2 separate things. Seemingly, based on Nissa being here, I would assume right now that Nissa is in charge of the League of Shadows.
Right, because I believe that's Angelbreaker, who was introduced in that Lazarus stuff, seated next to her on the left.
I'll take your word for it, because I do not remember.
Yeah, and I believe that was someone that was loyal to Talia, so that just mucks things up. So yeah, definitely, when I say mucks things up, not in a bad way, but it definitely has got me going like, oh, what is going on here? You know, what are the dynamics here? Because if I remember Nissa right, is that she's very anti-Roz, right? She's not like Talia, where Talia falls in line. So
I'll be honest, I'm thinking I can't remember reading a story about Nissa ever. I mean, I probably have. She's probably popped up, but I do not remember a Nissa story.
She was in that era when I first started reading comics. So Rucka, I think, was writing a book that I remember reading Nissa in. So
because despite having read DC Comics for like a decade by that point, when the character popped up in Arrow, I went, Nissa? Who's this? What is this nonsense? But I know she's a real character, but I don't think I've ever read a Nissa story. At least I can remember. I'm sure she popped up in something, but I do not remember.
Very curious, and I do love seeing this whole assassin side of the DCU. There's a lot of fun characters to play with here. So whoever that guy is sitting on the right as well, you know, to there, it seems like they're forming some kind of group here, right? At the end, that last panel before Cass's, you know, half face. So yeah, a lot of cool stuff here.
Yeah, no, this has continued to be one of the standouts of the last few months. Excited that we have this, and hopefully it's, you know, gets at least a few arcs before its demise. I would be.
Yeah, I think it's funny that this generation of writers seems to have a lot of love for Cassandra Cain. Because she keeps popping up in different things.
That's not funny. That makes complete sense. Think about the age of the writers and when they grew up reading comics. It makes complete sense.
Well, when I say funny, I don't mean funny, haha. It's just it's very curious in that, you know, we got her. We had that Spirit World book that she was co-starring in. She's in Birds of Prey. She has this. She pops up all the other Bat books. So. But yeah, it's good to have her as a, you know, she's getting more fleshed out each time, and that's good.
Yeah. All right, what are you giving Batgirl issue 3?
I'm giving this a 9.
I find it hard to argue with that, honestly. 9 for me as well. That's given 2 9s. I've had 2 9s and a 4 so far. Talk about Whiplash. All right.